it's wrong to criticize leaders of the church, even if the criticism is true. I have no doubt, on the basis of what I have studied and learned, that Mormons, including local leaders of our church, were prime movers in that terrible episode and participated in the killing.
The Big Show.
Some say that karma is a bitch. Some say that karma is a bitch.
The Big Show.
Hey, original root boy, DJ Shaky, well done, John Black. Hey man, esa que quiero conocerla para que toda la noche ya conmigo pueda estar y tú en busca de otra para ti, para que te divierta y podamos compartir. Hey yo danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Hey yo danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Hey yo danzal, danzal.
Welcome everybody to the premiere episode of EX-MORMON Live. It's good to have everybody here, and I'm happy to be here as well. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So I appreciate everybody for your positive comments and likes and all that fun stuff. I really appreciate it. I've spent a few months putting this show together and buying the necessary equipment and then learning how to use it. I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks. I had to figure out some stuff. I've been podcasting for 10 years, but it's not quite the same when you're preparing to do a live show with call-ins and all that fun stuff. So it took a little bit of research and learning to first figure out what I needed to get as far as equipment and everything, and then figuring out how to use it. That was the fun part. So there's a lot of different explanations out there, and everyone's a little bit different. So I had to kind of figure it out. But it's great to have everybody here. And basically the format of the show is going to be, as I've explained it, but some of you may not have heard everything. So basically the first half hour of the show is going to be me talking about current news, events, things that are going on. And then the last half hour of the show, I want to take your phone calls, and those of you that have experiences or things that you want to share, you're welcome to call in. It's just open lines for everybody. The only exception might be if I was doing an interview, or if I get somebody that calls in that really needs to talk, then I probably would keep them longer than just an average, question or something like that. So anyway, so that's basically how we're going to do it. Just some of the details about the show. I've published them over on EX-MORMON Radio and also on the EX-MORMON Live Facebook group. But basically the show is going to be free every night for everybody. So anyone that can tune in can listen for free through TuneIn Radio worldwide. As far as I know, this is the first ever daily live EX-MORMON show. And from my research, I can't even really see where there's been a daily live Mormon show, so this might be the first in the genre of Mormonism. I don't know, but it kind of looks like it might be, so I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to be able to take phone calls, which I think will be a big part of the show. I want it to be caller driven and give people the chance to call in and express whatever's on their mind, especially this time of year. I mean, there's a lot of us out there that have lost a lot of people during this process of Mormonism, leaving Mormonism. And I've been cut off by 95% of my family, including brothers and sisters and friends, for only questioning. They didn't even know that I didn't believe in the church or that I left. They still don't know because we haven't talked in 10 years, but they simply cut me off for questioning. And then, as some of you know, my parents were also cut off for not, cutting me out of their life. They were given an ultimatum by the family. Either he goes or we go. And thankfully my parents chose me and the truth. And they also have not talked to the family, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews for 10 years. So it's pretty sad. So I do understand, believe me, those of you that have lost a lot. And I already see people calling in. The way this is going to work is the calls will be like the last half hour of the show. So I'm just going to be talking here for a little bit about some of the current events and news that's going on. And then, just keep calling. And when I'm ready to answer calls, whoever's on there calling at the time, I will answer the phone and take your call, okay? Just a couple of shout outs real quick. I just wanted to thank Lori Crandall for her contributions. She has allowed me to play her music over on, where you're listening right now, on EX-MORMON Radio 24/7. She's been very gracious to allow me to do that, and I really appreciate that, Lori. It adds a lot to the station, and she's been through a lot and suffered a lot and had a lot of pain in her life because of the church, and she's written music about it, and she's very passionate about it, and she's spent a lot of time doing it. So for those of you that listen to EX-MORMON Radio and you get to hear her music, enjoy it and just be grateful that, she can, contribute that to the EX-MORMON community. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that are willing to help Lori, she does have a GoFundMe page, and I will link to that so that you guys can see it. And if anyone can, help her at all in her dream to continue to write music and everything, that would be great. She would really appreciate it. I'd appreciate it because she's really, really a great woman, and she's helped a lot of people. So her music is just very amazing. She's very strong, and it comes through in her music. So anyway, thanks again. All right, so let's see, what else can I tell you about the new format here? Starting out, the show is going to be an hour, and also I appreciate any feedback on people on sound and things like that. If for some reason you're not hearing me very well, or it's not loud enough or something, just let me know. But the show right now is being broadcast at 32 kbps, which is just, for those of you that download podcasts and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to try and increase it to 48 and then 64, so the quality will just keep getting better. But for those of you that are subscribed to the archives, it will be at 128. So I might be broadcasting at 32, and this is just the technical stuff, just so you know, but it'll be at a higher quality 128 for the downloads. So as I was mentioning, the show every night will be free for everybody. The archives will be by subscription only, and they will run $7.95 a month for those of you that want to sign up. And I will archive all the shows by the next morning, probably that night, hopefully, but at least by the next morning they'll be there for you to download in case you missed the show and you still want to listen to it. So that's how that's going to work. But like I said, every night, if you can't afford the archives, just tune in live every night, and I'll be here. So, and it's free for everyone wherever you're at. So I've also put some different links up on EX-MORMON Live on Facebook, and also over on EX-MORMON Radio, where you can see what time zone you're in, because there's going to be people from all over the world trying to figure out what time it is in Utah, what time 11 o'clock in Utah is their time. So I've put up those links for you to help you out as well. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Basically, this is a passion of mine. As most of you that have followed me for the last 10 years, you know that I've been doing this for 10 years. I started podcasting, way back in the beginning of podcasting. Mike and Hiram from The Church Is Not True, they were the original ex-Mormon podcasters. They were the first. John Dehlin was second. I believe I was third. If I wasn't, correct me. There might have been some others that were doing something back then, but basically Mike and Hiram, they were the originals, and they inspired me, and they helped me to laugh again at probably my darkest time in my life. And so I've told Mike many times, thank you, but I'll say it again publicly. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Hiram, wherever you're at. You guys were awesome, and you inspired me to start blogging and podcasting. So it was pretty awesome to be able to do that. So, I didn't even know what it was. Not many people did know what a podcast was back then. We were all learning still. It was all new stuff. So we had to figure that out. But thanks to them, I was able to do it. And I talked to Hiram a few times, and just great guys, and they helped a lot of people. And I still have that podcast hosted over on EX-MORMON Radio, or on the churchisnottrue.blogspot.com. Mike had linked to that earlier over in the EX-MORMON Live group, and I also posted a link to the EX-MORMON Radio, where I have it posted. If you haven't listened to the episodes of The Church Is Not True, you really should. They're awesome. They're great. And, like I said, they might help you because they've helped a lot of people. So anyway, I've probably forgotten some things that I was going to mention, but for now, that's good enough. And if you have any questions, you can email me at exmormonlive@gmail.com. That will be my email address. And I will, like I said, around 30 minutes into the show, I'll start taking your calls, but I'll tell everybody at that time. I'm assuming that most people will be listening, so I will mention that when that time comes for me to start taking your calls, just so everybody knows. And the way Skype works, unfortunately, they don't have a hold button or a mute button, so I can't just accept everybody in. It's basically one call at a time, so if I'm on the phone with somebody else, you can try calling in, but I'm not going to answer until I'm done with that call. But if you want to just keep trying to call in, like I said, the next person in line that's on there, I will answer the call, and you'll be live on the air. So then you can, talk about whatever you want to. So anyway, I just wanted to, that's enough of all that, right? Time to get into the show. But what I wanted to talk about is somebody had sent me a link earlier. Actually, it was Lori Crandall, I think. She was saying that they're going to be possibly shortening church meetings. And there's a link, actually, and I'll have to link everyone to it. But there's a link saying that they're talking about making the meetings 2 hours and 15 minutes, which would be a dramatic departure from the 3-hour block that we've been used to for decades. I think it was shorter back in the 80s at one time when they used to have Sunday school during the week, and I think it was 2 hours then for like priesthood, relief society, and sacrament meetings. Some of you might remember that. But then it went to the 3-hour block, and it's been that way ever since. So I guess they're considering cutting it down to 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that'll be interesting to see if they're going to do that. I guess they're trying it out. I don't remember the location. I don't have it up right now. But I guess they're trying it out in a particular location to see how it works. So they said that I guess they finally figured out that on Sunday you should spend more time with your family. So it's kind of nice that they figured that out in 2015. Once again, it's that wonderful ongoing revelation, right? The modern day revelation where Christ finally said, you know what? They should spend more time with their families. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting article. I haven't really had a chance to read it much, but I just kind of went through it and saw the basics of what they're trying to do. So I guess we'll see if that happens. But obviously the big news lately has been the new policy that the church has on gay couples and their children. And of course that's been all the uproar, and there was a mass resignation party, and which I broadcast live on Ex-Mormon Radio for everybody, and I replayed it, throughout the night for everyone. And I have the audio on Ex-Mormon Radio right now in rotation, so you might tune in at some point and you might hear that playing. But it's just really there's a lot of different sides to this issue, and there's a lot of different opinions on it. And I'm not going to get too much into what I heard today by somebody. But I will just say that they mentioned that, and I might get into this more tomorrow, but they mentioned that basically the church was
wrong.
It was showing that they had integrity. That this policy proves that they have integrity, that we can take them at face value, their words at face value. And I'm sorry, but I don't understand. I mean, I really do not understand that at all. It shows that they have compassion, they said. So compassion, integrity, and we can take them at face value that they really want to protect the children. I mean, it's just simply not true. I was talking with my partner and my friend Demon of Kolob earlier today, and I was just saying that this decision that they made does not come from any type of love or compassion or integrity. It comes from hate and bigotry. I mean, they don't worry about the children of gay couples. This is just my opinion, of course, but I mean, if this isn't a sign of how they feel about gay couples and gay marriage and their children, I mean, we're talking about people that are even in a gay relationship, or married. I mean, even married. it's legal. It's a legal marriage, and yet they're considered apostates now. And so it's just really it's upsetting, because they're taking it out on the children of the gay couples, So, what are we to make of it? Well, it's not done out of love and compassion. I mean, seriously. And so I was quite shocked to hear that, and that's what I was telling Demon of Kolob about earlier, is that it just really surprised me that an ex-Mormon would say something like that. It surprises me. I mean, it almost feels controversial for me to say that I don't agree with it, because it seems like there's a lot of people that are on that bandwagon, but I'm not. I mean, I see them for what they are. I've seen them for what they are for 10 years, ever since I discovered the truth and I got out. It's I don't know. I just don't know how anybody can see it that way. If they, and here's further proof of what I'm saying, okay? If they were really being genuine and we could take them at face value about what they're saying, that they want to protect the children, if that was true, why would they still be encouraging the children to go to church? So, they want to keep the children out of the tug-of-war with the parents and religion, and they just want to protect those poor little kids of gay couples, right? But they don't, because they're continuing to encourage them to go to church. So if they were so worried about the kids, they would say, don't come near the church till you're 18. And not only that, but at 18 years old, if they do want to join, they have to, basically cut off their parents, and say that their parents are living in sin and it's wrong, and they have to move out of their house. So yeah, that's real compassionate, really compassionate. I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, it is so hateful that I can't even begin to comprehend the hate that has gone into this. And this is the thing that I think a lot of people may not realize. I don't know. I mean, they should. I don't know why they don't, but it seems like, a lot of the people that are in the church that are gay, that have had to leave the church, or they're being excommunicated now because they're considered apostates, so it's going to be a witch hunt. They're going to try and hunt them down and excommunicate them. I mean, I hope not. A lot of people are saying, well, maybe the bishops will just ignore it or something like that, but chances are they're not going to, if this is what they're being told to do. And so basically, they're going to go after him, and they're going to excommunicate him, and I mean, that's not love, and that's not compassion, and that's not integrity. I mean, it's none of the above. And so it just really upsets me, and it's gonna cost lives, and it probably already has. I mean, I've heard some things about ever since the church made an announcement about this policy, that the suicide hotlines have increased dramatically in traffic and things like that. And so it's really devastating to these children that have to experience this. I mean, they have to literally reject their parents, and then they're trying to say, well, they don't have to reject them, they just have to reject their lifestyle. I mean, come on, it's just not it's not genuine, and it's not honest. So but what I was going to say is, a lot of the gay couples and the children, they still believe the church is true. So as ex-Mormons, we can say, well, I don't understand, they shouldn't want their kids in the church anyway, and so it's a good thing, right? It's a great thing that they don't have to be a part of the church. Well, it would be a great thing if they didn't believe in the church. If that was the case, they wouldn't care. It wouldn't matter to them that they couldn't be in the church, right? I mean, where am I going wrong here? I don't understand what's happening with some of these people and opinions out there. I mean, the truth is that they believe the church is true, so they are being cut out of the church. The parents are being punished in cases where they have custody of the children, 51% or more, I guess, is the way it's going to work, because it's the primary custody of the child. If it's the straight parent at 51%, then it's okay. But if it's the gay parent or gay parents, then they're going to be excommunicated, and the children are going to be basically excommunicated as well. You can say whatever you want, but these children, starting with babies, are being excommunicated from the church. And so, normally I would be happy about that, but I'm not happy about it, because these are people that still believe in the church, and then it has dramatic and long-lasting impacts on both the families and the children. For the children that they're continuing to say, keep coming to church. there's a state president in California who literally said, and you can continue to come to me for counsel or advice or anything you need, except you can't be a member of the church. It's just unbelievable. And so what's going to happen when these kids are 8 years old and all their friends are getting baptized and they can't get baptized? And their friends are going to go, well, why can't you get baptized? And what are they going to say? Well, my mommy and daddy, or my mommy and mommy, or daddy and daddy, whatever, are in a gay relationship, and I've been excommunicated from the church until I'm 18 years old. And even then I have to basically cut off my parents or a parent and move out of the house if I'm living with them. And so, it's just horrible. And so what kind of impact is that going to have on the young and impressionable children who might believe the church is actually true? So anyway, and then, I mentioned, a lot of people mention that this will lead to suicides, and it's going to lead to depression and all kinds of things. And it's, I was reading an article earlier today. There were 2 children in Colorado in the same school, both 11 years old, that committed suicide, in the last week. And it's absolutely tragic. And so to think that this can impact children that young is simply not true. And then you have to ask yourself, well, does the church care that people are committing suicide? And the answer is no, they don't. Why would they? And so again, I'm not gonna parse words here. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that well, they're actually good people at heart. They're just doing bad things, whatever. The truth is, the church has a policy that I've talked about extensively for 10 years plus, called Better Off Dead. And I've documented it. I've made a video about it. I've put it all over the place. And so, it's clearly documented that the church believes that, if you're immoral, which a gay person would be considered immoral by the church, then you're better off dead. So do I think that the hierarchy actually cares that children or parents of children or friends might kill themselves over this policy? No, I don't think they care even a little bit. I do not believe that these men have a conscience. I do not believe that they're good guys. People refer to them as lovely and wonderful. They're not. These guys are despicable, and they literally have no morals and no values, and so they don't care what the consequences are of their hate and their bigotry. They never have. Why would they? And so that's what concerns me, is the impact that it's going to have, and it worries me a lot. It's probably already had an impact, as I mentioned, so let's just hope that we can try to help those people and reach out to them. And I've got a couple people I'm talking to about creating some different support type groups, and I'm hoping that this show will be a support for these people that feel so alone and have nowhere to go, and that they can maybe call in whenever they need to and share what they're going through and what their experiences are. Anyway, and then you have the whole argument about policy. It's a policy. It's not a doctrine, it's a policy. Well, really? It's just a policy. The First Presidency has signed a letter confirming it. To me, there is no difference between a policy and doctrine. Where do the policies come from? They come from the doctrine. The doctrine creates the policies. The policies enforce the doctrine. They're one and the same. They go hand in hand. So you cannot separate these and say, well, it's just a policy, so there's a good chance that will change. Well, what isn't a policy then? So is everything in the church a policy? So what's doctrine? There's doctrine and there's policies and doctrine. To me, they're just all one and the same. The blacks not having the priesthood and being cursed and banned until 1978, that's just a policy? Really, a policy until 1978. No, that was doctrine. That was doctrine. And it wasn't taught. See, that's the funny thing, is it's not being taught as a policy. It's being taught as, this is what the church believes. And what is the whole purpose of the plan of salvation? A man and a woman. The proclamation of the family. This is not policy, folks. This is doctrine. The church's doctrine has not changed. And when it appeared that they were becoming more compassionate and understanding to the gay community, I was the one out there saying, you guys are being duped. You're being fooled. They are not being more compassionate. They are not being more tolerant. They hate gay people. They hate all of them, and they always will. And they do, and they've just proven it. So, if anyone has any doubt, just look at this policy. they don't care what the repercussions are. They couldn't care less. So it's just interesting, but yeah, and then there's, the people that want to change the church from within, and, hey, more power to you, but it's just not going to happen. Whenever there's been a major change in the church, it's not come from within. It's generally come from outside pressure to basically, change something because they're going to lose their tax-exempt status, like with the blacks in the priesthood. There's rallies being held against them. There's protests. It's things like that. It's very rarely the people within the church, and maybe I'm not thinking of examples where people in the church have made the change, but in my opinion, it's not very likely. And so I really think you're wasting your time. I know you might feel valiant in doing it, and that's fine. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying you're wasting your time, because they're not gonna just, look at the women's movement for, with Kate Kelly and everything. How's that worked out? Have they changed anything yet? Oh, women got to pray in General Conference. Wow. For the first time in 2013, women got to pray in General Conference. Are we supposed to celebrate that? Are they heroes because after all those years, they finally let women pray in General Conference? Women couldn't pray in sacrament until 1978. Are we supposed to pat them on the back and say, oh, thank you for convincing your sexist God to let women pray? What wonderful guys you are. And then they want to be heroes because of blacks in the priesthood, because why? They convinced their racist God to change his mind. It just becomes ridiculous after a while. So, they don't deserve any credit whatsoever for anything. They're just bending to the pressures of what's going on. But, I was talking to Demon earlier, and we were saying that the odds of this ever changing are very unlikely. And like he was mentioning, it's the core of what the church is. Like, they can never, how could they ever give up this doctrine of it has to be a man and a woman, because it would unravel everything that they've ever taught and been. And so I just don't believe that it's ever going to change, and you can bang your head on the wall. And if this policy didn't prove it, I don't know what could. It's pretty obvious to me that, that's the way it is. Oh, and just real quick, I wanted to mention, it's mandatory, right? It's mandatory. And I'll be taking your calls here in just a couple minutes. I see some of you calling in, but this whole thing about it's mandatory to have a court if you're in a gay relationship is just unbelievable, because they're comparing, and people keep saying that they're comparing the people in a gay relationship to people that have committed murder or attempted murder and rape, and they've beat their spouse, and there's a whole list of things that may require a court, but the things that make it mandatory are, for example, being in a gay relationship. It's just absolutely unbelievable. And so they're not comparing people to those people, they're actually making them worse than those people. So if you've committed or you've attempted murder, or you've abandoned your family, or you beat the hell out of somebody, or you've raped somebody. Oh, and by the way, it says forcible rape. What other kind of rape is there? What an embarrassment that is. Forcible rape? Oh, you mean the one where the woman aren't responsible? The one, where they showed their shoulders, and so it's kind of their fault too. Is that what they're talking about? So forcible rape, they're putting out the caveat that it's got to be forcible, and so they're actually making people in a gay relationship worse than those people. It's just absolutely incredible, and I have no idea how this organization can even exist or have anyone that believes in it in 2015, when they're saying people in a gay relationship or apostates in general are worse than attempted murderers and rapists and abusers. And it's just beyond me. So go figure, but anyway, that's kind of what I had to talk about tonight. But I'll go ahead and take your calls now. So for those of you that want to call in, go ahead and call in again. I've seen you guys calling in. Sorry I couldn't take your call. I just wanted to finish what I was saying, but we're about half an hour into the show, so I will go ahead and take your calls. So I just hope that there's a way to help these people, before they think that there's no hope, because there is hope. There is. So anyway, I I mean, how do you compare people? You know, I mean, I just want to get it right. You know, I just want to say, look, they're not comparing them; they're making them worse. You know, if you're in a gay legal marriage, you are considered worse. The court is mandatory for you, and you know you're going to get excommunicated. What are the odds you won't? You are worse than a rapist. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. Worse than a rapist. Wow. All right, I got somebody calling in here, so I will go ahead and take your call here, and we'll see who we got. Hello, you are live on the air.
Hello, Samuel. This is Dr. Shades calling.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and the reason I'm calling is I just want to be I wanted to capture the honor of being the very first person to call your live talk show.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. It's an honor to have you. I'm glad that you are the first caller. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you very much. You know, as I tuned in tonight, I really wasn't surprised at the subject matter, considering how timely it is.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
But,
absolutely.
But I've kind of got my own take on this whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, my take is that the only thing that I find to be surprising is that anybody's surprised.
I agree.
I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I've seen lots and lots of people who have put in their resignations or have said that they are going to resign or whatever because that this is just a new low and that the church is targeting children or it's
Right.
setting up children for failure or whatever. But the thing is, when has the church not done whatever it needs to do to advance its own agenda?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Look at the church's entire track record for the past 180 years or so. I mean, when the church has decided that it needs to go a certain direction or do a certain thing, who has been safe? I mean, who has not been thrown under the bus? Should the church require it?
Right. No, you're right on.
Have they stopped anything? Have they shown scruples up until now?
No. They're vicious.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean they're vicious to like you said, to carry out their agenda, whatever it may be, and to me it's an agenda of hate and bigotry, and I mean they will do whatever they have to do to make sure that they accomplish their goal, whatever that goal is. Yeah, you're right on. Yeah.
So, yeah, this is just a theory of mine, so I have no idea whether it's true or not. But in my humble opinion, I think that the church learned a lot of hard lessons from the Proposition 8 fiasco in California.
Right.
So I think that they were actually surprised at the amount of internal dissent they got. Of course, from their own members.
I think so too.
So perhaps they decided to institute this policy in order to weed out or otherwise convince people to leave who are friendly or have positive interactions with gay people.
You know what? You're saying exactly what I've been saying. I mean, you probably haven't seen me say it, and I haven't seen you say it, but that's what I've been saying too, is that they basically want to get rid of the troublemakers, get id of the people that are causing problems, and just like you said, weed them out. The wheat and the tares, and basically clear out. I mean, I figured out the other day, if they could keep 1 million active members paying their tithing, they were paying they were making $50,000 a year on average, and they were paying $5,000 a year. They could still pull in $5 billion a year off of 1 million members that stayed active. It's a lot of money. I mean, it's still a lot of money. And so
you're making a good point.
I'm just saying that they could. I mean, if they lost 2 million members over this, but they kept 2 million members, well, they're probably still pulling in $8 billion, $10 billion a year plus all of their other stuff they have where they're making money. So I think at some point they might just be cutting their losses, basically, is what you're saying too, and just saying, hey, let's just keep the diehards and get rid of the rest. Maybe, I don't know.
That's sort of my impression too.
Yeah.
And if that's really the case, and if they just want to head off any future internal dissent at the pass,
yeah.
The next time they want to roll out whatever anti-gay policy or move they feel like making, why not get rid of anybody right now?
Right.
Who might grow up to be sympathetic to people who are in homosexual lifestyles or something like that.
Hey,
that way they can roll out whatever agenda they wish, and there'll be no dissent, no backlash.
Absolutely. You know what? That's right. I mean, and that would make sense as to why they're getting rid of the children now. Do you really think they believe that many of those children at 18 years old are going to be like, hey, I want to get in the church now? I mean, what are the odds after 18 years of being hated and despised and basically excommunicated that the children are going to want to join? And plus the conditions they laid out for the children having to join are preposterous. I mean, they have to basically, renounce their one of their parents or both parents, and then move out, if they're living with them. I mean, it's like, I think they know that that's not going to happen very often. So
I think so too. And I think that's, of course, people are complaining that this is what's going to be the effect. But I think the church leaders probably anticipated that this would be the effect. Rather than it being some kind of, children falling away from the church being some kind of bad side effect, I think that the church is banking on exactly this sort of thing happening.
Yeah, I think
and
you're
I think
right.
They wanted it to happen.
Yeah, I know, and I don't. Why are more people? I don't know why more people aren't seeing it the way we are. Because I mean, that's how I see it too. I'm kind of at a loss for what I'm hearing. I'm confused.
Okay.
I don't know why more people aren't hearing this. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point.
well, I'm just saying, I mean, like I said, I was saying for years, when the gay community was kind of cozying up to the hierarchy and doing photo ops with them and saying, hey, everything's going good and they're becoming more understanding and tolerant. And I was the one, and you probably were too, going, no, they're not. I mean, that's not happening. Basically, I said, you're being fooled, you're being duped, and they're going to pull the rug out at some point, and they did. And I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, but I'm just saying it just seemed obvious to me that was what was going on, and that at some point they were gonna, do that. So I don't know. What do you think?
If you have been thinking the same thing, then I guess I'm kind of a Johnny-come-lately to this party. I think I'm not as unique as I thought I was. Darn it.
Well, yeah, no, I'm glad there's somebody else out there like me. I mean, my friend Demon of Kolob, he feels the same way. You feel the same way, so you're not alone. And it's good to know that there are other people out there thinking that, because I was just kind of going, do they really believe that they're like on their side now and that everything's good? And I was just, it was surprising to me, but I knew that they were going to pull something. But I mean, this was a surprise, though. I mean, to this extent that they went this far, I think it was fairly surprising.
Well, you talk about going to this extent, but I think it needs to be mentioned that they probably did not anticipate this kind of, backlash so soon with this magnitude.
Yeah.
They probably expected a nice, slow, even rollout with only a few people looking at the policy and a few people applying it as needed, but they probably never in a million years dreamed that it would, hit the national airwaves. Within less than 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, they didn't expect it to be leaked. I mean, number one, they're still naive. Their arrogance and their naiveness is amazing, because they really, I mean, 3 people, I guess, leaked it to John DeLynn. He said there were 3. And so they've got 3 people on the inside that leaked this, and so it's like, who are they? I mean, they don't even know who their own moles are. They got people on the inside. And so, because it was in the private bishop's handbook that wasn't supposed to be seen, and we weren't supposed to know it unless you're a bishop or in the bishopric. And so the fact that somebody would leak it so quickly is, I'm sure that caught them off guard. And then, like you said, the reaction was just, and then it hit every major, newspaper, channel. I mean, it was like worldwide, in 24 hours, and they didn't see that coming. They didn't expect that. They weren't prepared for that.
No, and plus the whole interview they did with Elder Christopherson and Mike Otterson. I mean,
yeah,
let you know that somebody must have had their heads reeling.
Oh,
how
yeah.
quickly they hit the airwaves.
Oh, yeah.
mean, when have they ever come out with an official statement such that it was this quickly? I mean, I've never seen it happen.
No. I mean, not only that, but a press conference. I mean, an actual press conference, like overnight, boom. And I think that, they were caught off guard. I think it's a combination of, like I said, they didn't expect it to be leaked, and then they're pretty arrogant, and they just thought that they could keep it under wraps, but it hit, and boom, the whole world exploded.
Yeah, that it did. It's kind of interesting. I think that they were all raised in the era wherein they could do and say whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And they could get away with it.
Right.
And nobody would know, especially not the media.
Well, I keep saying, do they know that we have the internet? I mean, I'm trying to figure out if they've realized that yet. I mean, we're not in the 70s or 80s or the 50s. It's like 2015, and we have an internet, and we have, news that goes like global in 2 seconds, and I don't think they figured that out yet.
Maybe not, but somebody made the point that they probably weren't internet or not, they might not have been banking on one of their own bishops turning traitor and feeding DeLynn this information.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that completely. Yeah, absolutely.
And plus the fact that And the fact that there were three of them, that might be a little bit unnerving for the hierarchy. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely.
So even despite the fact that we have an internet, like you mentioned, maybe they thought they could keep it under wraps anyway, because no bishop or stake president would ever dream of leaking this information to an apostate.
Right.
At least according to their way of thinking. Well, with this many wards and this many stakes, chances are there's going to be somebody who's disgruntled or I don't know, who wants the truth to be known or whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, they could even have. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, with a church this big and with this many wards and stakes,
yeah,
you've got to figure there's going to be a mixed bag. It's not going to all be homogenous.
They've lost control. I mean, they don't have the control they used to have. And it could even be like the children of a bishop, or anyone that has access to this type of information. It could be anybody, and so I don't know how they'd ever figure out who it was, and it's pretty obvious that they got a problem. That they're not going to be able to resolve anytime soon because they don't know who it is. I mean, but should they really be surprised? I mean, they're the same ones that call bishops that end up being pedophiles or molesting children, or it's all supposed to be done by the spirit of discernment that these men are called by, and then they end up doing terrible things or Ponzi schemes and defrauding people of millions of dollars, and so you would think that at some point they might realize that they've called people to be bishops or stake presidents that are not going to be good guys or loyal to them, or you'd think they'd figure that out, but I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they justify those type of things. Like, how do they? I would love to know their opinion on that. Like, well, how why would you think that wouldn't happen? Since anyway.
Well, maybe they banked on it happening sooner or later, but maybe they just thought that their disloyal elements wouldn't be disloyal this fast.
Yeah, that could be.
They thought there'd be like a grace period.
Yeah, no, you're right. They probably thought they'd have time to prepare for what might come down the road or whatever, but it was like right away.
Even so, you think that perhaps oh gosh, lost my train of thought here, but they would oh gosh, what was I going to say? As far as the grace period is concerned.
Yeah, that they would have time to prepare. Or?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't remember what I was going to say.
I know that feeling.
I'm ruining your talk.
Hey, no, it's fine. I've actually.
If I can backtrack a little bit to something we talked about earlier.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
We talked about the fact that the only thing that's surprising is that anybody's surprised.
Right.
I understand if true believers are shocked by this, and if they're being, if they're kind of thrown for a loop. But not to disparage any of my, ex-Mormon brothers and sisters, but the real surprising thing is the shock and the dismay from people who actually know the church's history.
Yeah.
Maybe even ex-Mormons themselves, and who are familiar with all these issues. Because, is this or is this not just business as usual?
Right. Yeah, oh no, I mean...
But what has changed? I mean, a true believing Mormon being shocked and amazed by this, that's one thing. But an ex-Mormon being shocked and amazed, that throws me for a loop.
Well, how about an ex-Mormon saying that this new policy shows that they have compassion, integrity, and honesty? I mean, that's pretty amazing to me too. So I'm not going to name.
Oh yeah, that's good.
What's that?
Yeah, that's good. When you say that you're talking about the ex-Mormon community having honesty and honor and integrity.
No, I'm talking about someone in the ex-Mormon community saying that this policy proves that the first presidency and the Big 15 have honesty and integrity and compassion. I mean, I'm confused. I mean. Yeah,
exactly. Just look at the way they treat missionaries or what they do about missionaries who have passed away.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like what they don't do. And like just look at the accommodations that missionaries in, like, let's say Argentina, which is where I think you served.
You don't want to get me started on that one. Oh, you know how I feel, how passionate I am about that. I mean, yeah, I'm going to definitely be.
Oh yeah, you have an entire website dedicated to missionaries who have passed away during their own service.
Yeah, and I mean, so, I'll do many shows on missions. Believe me, I will. So.
Good. But me, I served in Japan, and so I was really, really lucky. We had you could drink the tap water. There were no problems. We had none of those horror stories that you folks that served in, like, let's say, South America or maybe Africa had to deal with. So, but still, just hearing the horror stories of folks that had to serve in places like that with open sewers, no running water, know how to cold water. It's just amazing that a church that is this wealthy wouldn't just spend a few extra bucks, just pour out maybe it's a drop from that bucket, and provide decent living accommodations for its missionaries.
Oh, I know.
That blows me away. They can afford it. Can they not?
Yeah, how hard would it be to just have purified water for the missionaries? I mean,
just ship it in or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, is that asking too much?
Exactly. Like the church is building some kind of a housing development in Florida, and I'm sure you know a lot more about than I do, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's for 500,000 people.
Okay, 500,000 people. Now let's see. That's 500,000 people. That equals 250,000 missionary couples, right?
Yeah.
And there aren't people near that in the world. And lots of places you can build decent housing for a lot cheaper than you can in Florida.
Right.
So the church could build housing for every single last one of its missionary couple.
Yeah.
So the missionaries don't come home with intestinal parasites and other lifelong illnesses and whatnot.
Right.
But they're not doing that. They're building something in Florida instead.
They don't care. I mean, the girl that just died of E. coli in Argentina earlier this year, that should never happen, And what's the first thing they do? They give her a blessing, and I mean, she doesn't go to the hospital. No, they have the missionaries come over and give her a blessing and anoint her with oil, and then guess what? She gets sicker and sicker, and then they get her to the hospital, and oops, too late, she's dead. It's
oh my gosh,
horrible.
What a nightmare.
Yeah.
I may be an ex-Mormon myself, but I was a missionary, and I even extended for a month, so I got there longer than most. So even now, I feel a certain kinship with missionaries.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of feel a certain affinity for the missionary program. It still captures my interest.
Right.
So when I hear about missionaries suffering and having health problems or undergoing these horrific trials like they are, it still affects me.
It does. It devastates me. I mean, her poor family, and then they had to create a page on GoFundMe or one of those funding pages to raise enough money to get the parents down to Argentina, because she was still alive at that point, and then they had to raise money for her to bring her body home. I mean, and then the church finally stepped in and covered it, but it was only after they were publicly shamed. I think I might have had something to do with that, because I went a little. Yeah, I mean, I went a little crazy on them on Twitter and let everybody know, what was happening. So.
Yeah, I mean, probably the most polite adjective I can give the whole situation is unacceptable.
Oh yeah, I mean,
really, for a church that is able to afford a $500,000, a 500,000 home living space community,
city,
whatever.
It's a basic city. They're building a city.
A church that can afford to build a city, and they can't afford to, fly some parents out to the the place where their daughter is deceased, and they can't afford to fly the body home.
I know.
That is just
it's horrible. I mean, it's like, well, I guess she didn't finish her mission, so you know how it works, if you don't finish your mission, dead or alive, I guess you got to pay for your ticket home, I mean, isn't that?
Oh yeah.
That's the policy.
Oh gosh. My gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so horrible that you can't even comprehend it, really. I mean, it's just absolutely beyond comprehension. It really is. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, exactly. So my whole point in bringing up the whole missionary thing, I mean, I'm not, believe it or not, I had a point with all this.
Okay.
And that's just to say that if the church can be this callous, this uncaring toward its own missionaries, then why would it be any more caring or compassionate towards its children?
Right.
It has a track record.
They don't care. They don't care. I mean,
our missionaries, just like children, our missionaries not vulnerable. Because they're oftentimes in a brand new country with an unknown language, in a brand new culture, maybe even away from their parents for the first time. Aren't they to some degree vulnerable, just like children are?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's an example of I don't know if you heard about. I think his name's Peter Mon, but he was serving a mission in Mexico, and this was a year or two ago. I think it was maybe a couple years ago. And anyway, he ended up dead. His companion wasn't there. He'd left or something, and he ended up he had his hands tied and a bag over his head, and he was dead. And the first thing they reported that he was murdered, and then it came out that he committed suicide. And I'm going, wait, he committed suicide. And they had the picture, and I guess it showed his hands tied in the back. I mean, I'm going, did he put the bag on his head before or after he tied his hands? I mean, really? And so I had put up there's a tribute to him on YouTube, and I'd posted it on one of my sites, and his mother contacted me and said, can you please take that down, because there's a lot of people in the family. I mean, she goes, I don't care that you have it on there, but there's a lot of people in the family that would. But she was his mother, and she said, I still don't know what happened. And the church would not tell her. They would not talk to her about it. They basically cut off the mom, and they had his funeral, and to this day, she does not know what happened to her son. The church knows because they sent investigators down there to figure it out, but they have never contacted her or talked to her at all about why or how her son died. I mean, that should tell you something. I mean, that's straight from the mom, So
that tells me a whole lot. But it also tells me that you know way more about current goings on with the LDS Church than I do.
Well, I've probably been a little, I don't know, a little too involved, maybe more than I should have been all these years. But it's just, it's just been something that I can't seem to leave alone, because I want to expose it, and I want to help people. And so, I've taken some breaks over the years, but I seem to always find something like that. And then, next thing I know, the mom's contacting me, and it was like, wow, what's going on here? And anyway, but that was really a tragic situation. And to this day, she doesn't even know what happened to her son. And she's like talked about, she, cries herself to sleep at night. And can she call the church and find out what happened? No, she can't, because they're not going to tell her. Because why? They probably don't want to be sued. They're probably afraid of liability. That's all they care about, is the money, the bottom line, always. So.
Okay. Do you think there's a chance that she could contact the Mexican authorities and they might be able to fill her in somewhat?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her for a while, but I probably ought to email her again and just say, have you ever heard anything? And maybe I'll suggest that to her, that, the Mexican authorities might do it. But I hate to be conspiracy theorist here, but, the church probably took care of that. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Let's hope it's not that bad.
I hope not, but I mean, I know that the picture, they had his picture posted on a newspaper of actually like him dead, and that picture came down and the article was scrubbed, and so it basically doesn't even exist at this point. It's as if it never happened. And the site they have on Mormon.org where they put everybody's pictures up, and they have their testimonies and stuff. And, well, he was on there, and like the same day that he died, that was taken down immediately. And so it's as if he didn't even exist. I mean, they've just basically scrubbed everything about this guy, and that's why I wanted to post the tribute to him. But because it's over on YouTube, and anyway, she was really upset, and she was in a bad place, and so we worked it out. She was really angry with me, but then we worked it out, because I wasn't trying to cause any harm or heartache or problems. I just wanted him to be noticed, that he was alive and that he died on his mission for the church, so.
Boy, it's a really sad state of affairs when an ex-Mormon, an apostate, cares more about this guy's life and legacy than the church for which he gave his life to spread the word about.
Yes, it's very sad. Well, I mean, for years I was the only person that had and I'm still one of the only people that has like a missionary, memoriam for the missionaries that have died. I mean, I'm still, like, a lot of people use me as the source when they create theirs, and they link to mine and say, that this guy's an apostate and he's an ex-Mormon and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. But yeah, like you just said, I mean, isn't that a sad statement that I was the one to do it and to put it all together and basically honor fallen missionaries, which, they've never done. There's no monument, there's no memorial, there's nothing. Because, like we've said, they don't care. They just don't care. And so it's very sad. Very sad.
You said it. They don't care. Those are the key words to remember when we talk about this new policy.
Exactly.
They don't care.
No, they don't. They don't. And that's why I was really shocked when, because the church is saying that they're doing it to protect the children. But if they were really going to protect the children, they wouldn't say, oh, but keep coming to church, keep coming to church and go to your meetings and hang out with your church friends, basically. And why would they, if they really were worried about screwing up the kid or causing a conflict with the parents or whatever, why would they continue to tell the children to come to church even though they can't be a member of the church? And so,
good point.
To me, that's a no-brainer. So
there you go. Well, Samuel, I mean, this is your very first night doing this call-in talk show, and so I've monopolized way too much of the time. I better let somebody else get at least the word in edgewise before you have to wrap up the show.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. And call in anytime. I would love to have you anytime you want. I'll probably extend the show a little bit tonight. My buddy Demon of Kolob has been trying to call in, so I think I'll go ahead and take his call. But hey, thank you very much, and
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Good luck with it.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited, and if you can announce it over there in Mormon Discussions, that would be awesome. I mean, I would really.
It's already done.
Hey, cool.
Already done before I even called.
Hey, thanks so much, man. You're the best. I mean, I appreciate all that you've done. So.
No problem. Have a great night.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
you too. Thanks. All right, so our first caller is Dr. Shades, and Demon of Kolob, I know you're out there. I know you've been trying to call me, so go ahead and call me now. Call in, and you can come on, and I'm going to extend the show tonight a little bit just so we can get some more calls in. It is the first show, so let's go ahead and get as many people to call in as we can. I've received a lot of messages and stuff, but Dr. Shades, he's a great guy, and he was one of the people that really helped me 10 years ago. And so it's very fitting that he called in the show tonight. Now, Demon of Kolob's calling in, so let me get that here. Are you there?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, if you can turn down your background noise there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm turning it down now.
All right, awesome. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I'm sorry I couldn't take your call. I was talking to Dr. Shades, and I just wanted to finish that up. But I was just explaining, 10 years ago, he really helped me. I mean, he was one of the first people interviewed on The Church Is Not True. And so to me, it goes back to, like the origins of, of everything. I mean, it's like pretty cool to have you on here, Dr. Shades. I mean, hey, that's cool. So anyway, you're on the air, so I appreciate you calling in.
Okay, so yeah, first show.
Yes, the premiere of EX-MORMON Live. It's good to have it going. I mean, I've been preparing for it for months, as you know, so it's good to finally get it done, and get out there. And
yeah,
so.
Too bad the church hasn't done anything lately that there is to talk about.
Yeah, I picked a really bad time to start a daily talk show, didn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to talk about.
There's nothing the church has done this month that anybody's talking about.
Oh, no, not at all. No. I can't think of anything really offhand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Dr. Shade made some great points, I mean, and the bottom line is, I mean, like he said, if they don't care about the missionaries, who are out there, busting their asses 24/7 for the church for 2 years, or, why would they care about the gay people or their kids? I mean, great point,
Well, we talked about it, and their actions, you went over it. It's obvious they don't really care that much about the missionaries.
Right. They don't.
They're disposable.
Yeah, they are. They literally are. I mean, if you die, they just plug in somebody else. Nothing changes. Nothing stops. I mean, do they stop the missionary work for a day? Do they, I mean, that's a good point. Like, say somebody dies on the mission. Do they, like, tell all the missionaries, hey, you know what, don't work today or don't work this week. Just, take time to,
Your PA in honor. No, here's how it goes. Skip the preparation day. Work twice as hard to honor so-and-so's memory. Oh, and forget that anybody ever died on their mission. It never happened.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it happens all the time.
Right. Well, like there was one example I talked about, I don't know, a year or so ago where a missionary's, I think it was her dad that died. Or no, it was her grandpa. It was her grandpa died. Somewhere, I think it was over in Chile. Anyway, her grandpa died, and so they had to let her know that her grandpa died. And so to make everything better for her, they brought her some cinnamon rolls. And I thought, wow, that was a really nice touch, poor girl just lost her grandpa, and you brought her cinnamon rolls, so everything's okay now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the mentality that they have. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, but it's because they don't give a damn. They just don't care,
Yeah. It's
so,
like, a parent dies while you're on your mission. Don't come home.
Oh, no, of course not. Well, in the PBS documentary, I mean, what was it? You know, the bishop, I think it was the bishop, came over to the missionary's house. His mom died, and put a note on the door. You know, your mom died. Call home. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's a good way to handle it. Hey, dude, your mom died. Call home.
Yeah.
No big deal, right? I mean, it's just, I don't know how people can hear this and go, oh, okay, well, you know, the church is true, and these are wonderful guys. They're lovely and full of integrity, and you know, they're just great guys. It's like, seriously?
Yeah.
Wow, you need help.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, just leaves a note. Your mom died, called home. It's like not waiting around to think, oh, maybe they might need some counseling or some help.
Yeah, exactly. Like, serious help.
Right now, that really kind of stings personally.
Well, and how about this? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if they could go to the funeral? That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And he didn't go to the funeral, you know? And the dad actually said that he told his son not to come to the funeral. And so...
yeah, the whole family has told him, stay out on your mission.
Yeah.
The stupid busy work you're doing bothering people is more important than being there for your family and saying farewell.
Right.
Forever let it haunt you that when you find out that this cult is false and true,
yeah,
won't you be so glad that you ignored it all to stay on your mission instead of going home when your mom was sick and maybe getting to see her one last time?
I know. Well, and then you have that case that we talked about a while back where the missionary did come home, but they only let him come home for, I think, 7 hours. And his mom was like literally on her deathbed. And so they actually, I don't know why, but they let him come home. But then they let him stay for 7 hours, and then they made him go back to the mission. And he had to literally leave his mom before she died, and he couldn't be there for the funeral. I mean, wow, you talk about gut-wrenching. Jeez.
I can tell you why, because missions suck.
Yeah.
And if they'd have left, it probably would have made the press if they'd have kept him from going home and saying farewell. So they let him come home and say farewell just long enough to, so they could say they did not let him do it.
Well, and that is a rare instance. Normally they would not even let him come home, but in this case it was almost worse. I mean, it's almost worse because you send him home to say goodbye to mom, and then he has to leave her dying in a hospital bed and go back to his mission. I mean,
it's like, no, leave him home, let him stay for the funeral. Any organization with even an ounce of compassion, even the military,
right? Yeah, I mean,
would give you leave, even in immediate wartime, to attend your parents' funeral.
And maybe he doesn't go back on the mission, but oh well. I mean, maybe he comes home, he doesn't want to go back, then so be it. But that's not an option.
Maybe the family needs him now with, a parent gone, but...
Right. Well...
No. We don't consider that because here's the thing with the church. Only the organization matters. The person is completely disposable.
Yes. Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely.
Oh, so what if a whole bunch of children going to church are made to feel terrible, and a few may even just maybe can't feel so terrible that they harm themselves?
Oh well.
Some may even kill themselves.
Better off dead.
Because of our harsh, brutal policy.
You're better off dead,
that's
baby.
Fine, and we'll use it. We're protecting the kids as a filthy excuse.
Yeah, it is, and for anyone to actually believe it and say that we should take them at their word, and that they're being honest, and that they're compassionate and have integrity, I'm sorry, but I'll talk more about that tomorrow night. But I mean, you're off in la la land, and you're actually causing problems. You're going to cause harm by saying those things, because people are going to actually go, okay, well, maybe people that respect you and you say that, they're going to maybe believe it, but it's not true. It's a lie, and so I don't know why you would want to perpetuate that. When you know that it's not true. And so it's upsetting,
But it's like, how does that protect the children? That's just completely bogus.
Yeah, how does it protect the children?
Like you said before, if they were protecting the children, they would be encouraging them not to come to church.
Well, like I was saying earlier, and like we talked about earlier today, why would they continue to encourage them to go to church and to be counseled by them when they've basically been excommunicated? I mean, they can't even possibly join the church until they're 18 years old anyway. So why would the church want to continue to torment them by having them come to church if they were so worried about protecting them? If they have to, I mean, let's just, it is what it is. They hate gay people. They hate their children. And like, Dr. Shays was saying, and I was agreeing with him. We've all said it, is that they want to get rid of the bad baggage. They just want to cut that loose.
Yeah,
get it out.
They figure the gays are so dangerous, and the kids of gays will be sympathetic to their parents. So
right.
They've just figured they're a lost cause, so they've just written them off. But you know what? Effectively, this new policy does.
What's that?
It nullifies the Articles of Faith.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the one about,
because it's like the number 2 Article of Faith. We believe that men will be punished for their own sins,
and not Adam's transgression. Yep.
AKA, you are only punished for what you do, not what your parents do.
Yeah, I mean, do they not get that? Do they not get that? I mean, really? Wow, it's just amazing.
That was a big fucking lie all this time. I
Right.
thought they would keep that a secret forever so the people wouldn't know it, but nope.
Yeah.
They announced it. Oh, I'm sorry, it was leaked.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, I just wanted to mention, if there's anybody else out there that wants to call in, there was another person that was trying to call in a little while ago. If you want to call in and join us, you're welcome to. Because Demon and I are probably going
to get another call, take it. No.
Well, what'll happen?
But yeah, I just want to say that I think this puts light to a lot of to at least the second Article of Faith, and with that one, we put light to. It puts light to, I think the church, you have to question them on a whole bunch of other things. It's like, the most important thing, Tex, is the family. Wrong.
Yeah. Unless you're gay. If you're gay, then, we'll see you when you're 18 and you renounce your family and you move out. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's all about family. Families are together forever. Unless you're gay. I mean, we need to add unless you're gay at the end of, every time they say families are forever.
Unless you're gay or you question us.
Yeah, or question, right? Yeah. I know. It's absolutely...
Because we're going to hold you hostage and a slave for all your money. I'm going to say it, we're not supposed to divulge this big secret, but...
Yeah.
I feel bad about doing it now. But what did you say in the temple? They bless the LDS cult with everything you have and everything you will have.
They'll take it all. They have no... When are people going to realize that these men are monsters? They're not good guys. They're not lovely, honest guys with integrity and compassion. These are like some of the most despicable people on the planet Earth. I'm sorry, but,
They're businessmen.
Yes, they're running a corporation. They don't give a damn about you or your family or... they don't care about anyone but themselves and the corporation. They care about themselves very much.
Yeah.
And
they care about themselves. They care about the corporation. The big secret about the church is the only 2 things I found to take there are
bad PR, for one.
Bad PR and loss of revenue.
Yep, and loss of revenue. Yep.
Why did the blacks finally get the priesthood?
Yeah, because
it was. I heard that it actually came to light that the rumor was forever that they were going to lose their tax-exempt status.
Right.
And I heard lately that somebody brought forth and some declassified papers that that was actually in process, that there was actually filing of paperwork.
It wouldn't surprise me. It was becoming pretty serious. When you're still banning and cursing blacks in 1978, the civil rights movement was, going on in the 50s, and you're still banning blacks. Yeah, it's pretty serious, so yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, 20 years behind the times, and...
Again. They're over...
and they only probably were that progressive that probably, if they hadn't been threatening their tax-exempt status, it probably would have taken them till 1990. 1990.
Yeah. Or, I think if they could have gotten away with it, it would still be the case today. I don't think they ever intended to let blacks into the church at any point in time.
Oh, I think they did.
Really?
And some of the 12, Hinckley wanted to let blacks in.
Well, then you should have done it. Make it happen.
Well, Yeah, well, a couple, like I said, at the time in the 70s, a couple of the apostles wanted to let blacks in for one simple reason.
Money?
Money. They
Yeah.
had money too. Why are we denying ourselves their money?
Well, I mean, Mark E. Peterson said that he'd let every Negro drive a Cadillac if they could afford it. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's a racist one.
Yeah. That's
Anyway, yeah.
one of the worst talks ever, man. Oh my goodness. That's like
Yeah.
unbelievable. Jeez. If you mix 1 ounce of black blood, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
wow, you know? And yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, it's
And yet
pretty crazy
they
stuff.
were having a horrible problem in Brazil where they just built a temple.
Oh
Can't
yeah.
have one drop of Negro blood. Nobody knows. These people are married like crazy.
Yeah, not only did they build the temple, but then they weren't going to be able to go to the temple. I mean, there was going to be an empty temple sitting in Brazil because the church found out that everyone had black blood in them. Oops, you know?
Oops.
So they had a huge, I mean, they had a catastrophe on their hands. So, I mean, come on, there was no revelation. Kimball wasn't pouring his heart out in the Holy of Holies, trying to convince a racist God to change his mind. I mean, but that's what they want you to believe. They want to be heroes, you know, like, hey, we were the ones that changed the mind of a racist God, and we made him believe that blacks are, you know, worthy of the priesthood now. It's like, I mean, that should be embarrassing right there, that you're admitting that your God is like a piece of shit, you know, and a racist.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, here's the inside thing that nobody really knows. Okay. So there was a fight within the 12 about this for a long time, and at the time, one of the younger ones who was very ambitious was trying to kind of get blacks the priesthood.
Yeah.
Gordon B. Hinckley was actually one of the ones leading at the push, not because he was a great humanitarian and cared about denying people their rights.
Right.
He just thought that it was horrible that we were denying ourselves a huge market. He just wanted to get Africans' money and black people's money. He said, oh, okay, they're making, you know, they've come up in the world. They're making money now.
Good point. Yeah. Makes sense.
And the other thing is he was the PR guy, and he knew how bad that the PR hit was.
Yeah, if anyone knew, it was Hinckley. I mean, he knew how, and it wasn't only that, it was the protests at BYU. You know, Stanford wouldn't play him, and different sporting events.
He was the other guy, so of the 12, he was the one who knew how bad this was hurting the church's reputation, and he really cared about that. So
yeah,
so he was the one who was pushing it, and a couple of the younger ones were okay for it, but most of the 12 were diehard and were just like, no way. And it was finally the threat and the fact that they were going to lose tax-exempt status that got the rest of the 12 to fall in line finally in 78.
It's amazing. It really is. You know, Hinckley says he was there in the room. I remember him. He gave that talk, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, where he said he couldn't understand where the racial hatred and, you know, he just couldn't understand where any of that was coming from. He was just absolutely, you know, shocked by it. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you've been around in this church for how long, and you had no idea that there was ever racism in the church? Wow, you're lying, aren't you?
Well, it was like, the racism he didn't understand is, what's wrong with the black person's money? We want, the policy is keeping them from joining the church. I want their 20% too.
Well, the color of money is green, and I don't think they've ever turned that down. So they're all into the green, for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. They hate the gays so bad, but if a gay donates money, I'll bet you what, they'll take it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they would not turn that down, and they're probably going to tell him. I'm surprised they haven't actually come out yet and said, "Hey, for all the kids that are going to have to wait till you're 18, just go ahead and save your tithing. You know, put it aside, and then when you're 18, you can pay us." You know, or
and you know what they tell people who have been excommunicated? There is one church privilege they can still get.
Pay your tithing.
And they're still expected to do. Pay your tithing. We've just done the most horrible, brutal thing that we can because we can no longer get away with killing people.
Yeah. Like Margaret Toscano says, it's a violent act. There's violence in it, you know?
It's totally violent. Yeah, being sent to a court of love. And if anybody wants to know where this name comes from and what court of love means, read 1984 by Orwell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's analogous to the ministry of love.
court of love. Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean,
He did anything but.
yeah, I mean these people. They, it was like Margaret Toscano explained in the PBS documentary, The Mormons, that after they excommunicated her, they told her that they really liked her and they thought very highly of her and they enjoyed talking to her, and then they all wanted to like shake her hand and walk her to the car. I mean, it's like, really? Like, you just excommunicated me. She's like, you just committed a violent act against me. You took away my eternal life and everything, and now you're gonna, like, shake my hand and say, man, you're awesome. I mean,
I've read 25 different stories with about the same thing.
Yeah.
Where, these men just rip it apart. And these are written by, men, women, young adults.
Right.
For all different reasons. I read a whole bunch, and Margaret's account of the excommunication and how brutal and damning it is. It's like these men were just, brutal and were cutting me and everything, and then they want to shake my hand like we're all friends and everything, and everybody,
You're awesome. Oh man, you're such a good woman.
That sentiment, I've read it time and again, and most of the accounts of the excommunications I've read. It's
horrible. I mean, it's horrible. And then it got worse for her because since she wasn't a member anymore, when her sister died, she couldn't help prepare the body or fix her hair, or like her brother-in-law wouldn't let her near her dead sister because she wasn't worthy. I mean, so her pain just went on and on and on. And do you think the church cared? No, of course not. Why would they? Why would they? I mean, that's what.
Of course they care. They want that kind of. Oh, you're.
Well, they
like,
care.
Remember, they want.
Right.
They try to make you feel you're not good. You're not right. You're not.
That's a good point. So they care, but not in the sense that we would generally speak about caring. They care in the fact that cool, we really screwed her life up.
I mean, they don't care. They're not empathetic at all.
Right. Right, and that's.
They care because they want to lower. They want to feel superior. They want
Well, what did John DeLynne's granddaughter say on that podcast with John DeLynne? She mentioned that he didn't have any empathy.
Not John DeLynne's granddaughter, was the Apostle's
no,
granddaughter, right?
Ballard. Yeah, Ballard. M. Russell Ballard's
granddaughter on John DeLynne's Mormon Stories podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's what I said. Sorry if I said John DeLynne's granddaughter. No, I meant Ballard's on John DeLynne's podcast. I mean, she said that he had no empathy.
She's still a believer, and she's just barely starting to question just recently, and it's this policy that made her speak out.
Yeah, and I meant to talk to Dr. Shades more about that. That was one of the things that slipped my mind, was he'd mentioned that, that basically that this is having a massive impact on good Mormons that have never questioned before or never even thought the church was false. Even they are offended, and that was one of the main things. I think the hierarchy, like Dr. Shades was saying, that they never had. They just didn't see that coming. They didn't expect regular diehard members to be offended by this policy, and so they were really caught flat-footed and off guard. And one other thing, just real quick, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I was listening to. I'm trying to think of what show I was. It might have been one of John DeLynne's podcasts, but they were talking about how the PR department. It appears that the PR department of the church was not even notified about this. Like they were caught flat-footed too. Like they didn't even know anything about this policy until it came out, and so they were finding out about it the same way everybody else was, and that's pretty amazing. They didn't even tell their own.
It was not meant to be publicly released.
Right, and so the PR department.
The PR department knew nothing about it just shows.
Right.
This was a policy to be implemented, and it was just supposed to be in place for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's unthinkable that a bishop, or a stake president would ever leak this information.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we were. I don't know if you heard us. Did you hear us talking about that? I mean, it was pretty funny. We were like, it
took a day, and it took one day after this release for 5 different people to leak it to John DeLynne.
Right. Oh yeah, one day. Yeah. I mean, I think it was 3. It might have been. Yeah, there might have been more, but. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
And I wonder how many leaked it to Quinn and how many leaked it to
Oh yeah, it was probably getting leaked all over the place. John DeLune was just the
Who
first
else?
one to
It's
come
like-
out and tell us, you know.
Yeah. It's like, do they ever read their own scriptures, you know?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Have they ever read the Book of Mormon about, you know, the whole thing about deeds done in secret and secret combinations, and
yeah.
your day of justice will come and your secret acts will be revealed? Obviously not.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what it's going to take for people. I mean, what will they have to actually do? I mean, they're going to have to like murder people in the streets. I mean, what would it take for people to realize what's going on here?
That's not going to make everybody leave the church.
Even that wouldn't, right? They'd say, well, they were just acting as a
It's
man.
already happened.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, Mountain Meadows. I mean, I'm just saying, like, what would it take modern day if this didn't do it? What would it take for those that are still clinging to the church to actually realize what's going on here and who these guys are? What would it take? I just, at this point, I honestly don't know. I do not know. I mean, from what I've heard in the last couple days, I'm at a loss. You know, I mean, apparently they can do whatever they want, and these people are still going to believe.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Let's look at history. They can do whatever they want, and people will still believe. Okay.
Yeah. They shouldn't even exist right now, but they do.
I mean, let's look at the past century. They murder 160 innocents in cold blood.
Right.
Whack babies against rocks and crack their skulls.
Yeah.
Hit young kids with rifle butts, and did this all in secret and swore everybody to secrecy.
Right.
When it came out, did this destroy the church? No.
No. They've even admitted it. I mean, you know, Oaks admitted it. The bishops did it. The local leaders did this, and you know, they didn't confess Brigham Young, but you know, bishops. I mean, mass murdered Mormon bishops and state presidents, mass murdered innocent men, women, and children, and you know, it's okay. You know, it's like wow, it's crazy.
It's okay. They castrated a guy.
Yeah, probably.
And that's okay. And Brigham Young heard about this. What's he say? Oh, just let it, you know, just don't speak any more about it, and it'll eventually pass away. So,
wow.
I mean, there are on record. I mean, you know, and it's like, you know, and these guys want undying loyalty, and
right.
I made a video about it. Never question, you know, never question it. The church would never ask you to do anything bad. Well, let's look at the history of that.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I mean, hey, you know, one thing about Mountain Meadows that, you know, a lot of people say, well, Brigham Young didn't order the massacre or whatever, but if he's a prophet and he has spirit of discernment, why did he need somebody to ride all the way to Salt Lake to tell him that there was going to be a massacre? Shouldn't he have already known that as the prophet? I mean, shouldn't he have known and stopped it?
His preaching was certainly think that that's what he wanted him to do.
Yeah, I mean, why would he stop something that he's been preaching needs to happen? So,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You know? So, anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, how can you give your own conscience away to this church?
Yeah.
I mean, their history is that, and the church says, well, that was a long time ago. Let's just forget about Mountain Meadows.
Right.
Has the church forgotten about Hans Mill?
Oh, of course not. No. That's what justifies
and that
Mountain
was another
Meadows.
20 years, you know, before Mountain Meadows.
Right. Yeah.
And was only a fraction of the, you know.
Well, that's what's, I mean, whenever this comes up and I'm talking to an apologist, generally that's what they use as their defense. Well, look what they did to us at Hans Mill. And so basically, because a bunch of people killed a bunch of Mormons at Hans Mill, then that justified you killing a bunch of innocent people at Mountain Meadows. I mean, is that...
the thing they never... do you know what caused Hans Mill?
At the moment, I mean, I don't really remember what that was.
It was called the Battle of Crooked River, but it's basically when a whole bunch of Mormons killed three of the local Missouri settlers.
Right, so they provoked, you know.
And so a mob came in and just shot them dead.
Yeah.
When they were vastly outnumbered in in an almost massacre, and so this was a impromptu posse put together that was trying to hunt down the murderers.
Right. Wow. I mean,
And
so
those murderers hid in the schoolhouse hid in the mill, and they found out that they were hiding in there, and they thought the fact that they were hiding in with a bunch of kids would keep them from firing, and the posse had no idea there were kids in there.
right. Wow.
That there were some kids and some women in there, or they wouldn't have done what they did. But they fired. They wouldn't come out, so they just fired through. And
It's nothing like Mountain Meadows. Mountain Meadows are out in the broad daylight and they're killing children, women, pregnant women.
and they're killing them by subterfuge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they make them line up, they make them trust them, they take away their guns, and then they execute them in cold blood.
It's like, oh, we're coming here to save you, quote, from the Indians attacking you.
Right.
And then they just march them away, turn around, and say, Mormons, do your duty, and they fire them, point blank, kill them, smash their heads in.
Yeah. Well, and the worst, I've talked about this before, but it was one of the things that had a major impact on me when I left the church 10 years ago. I had read about the racism, I verified it, and I was horrified. And then I just happened to be home one night, and the documentary on the History Channel came on of Mountain Meadows Massacre. I'd never heard of it, didn't know a thing about it. I watched that documentary in absolute horror and shock. Basically just sick to my stomach. But the worst part was when what they had done is, as you know, they gathered up all the children that they believed were 8 years old, or 7 or younger, or I guess 7 or younger, and put them in a wagon and said, we're not going to kill these children because they're not of age yet, which is 8 years old to be baptized. For those of you that don't know, Mormons baptized at 8 years old, and so there was a girl in the wagon that was 11. And so I guess when they got done with the massacre and everybody else was dead, then they asked her to get out of the wagon. They said, how old are you? And she said 11. And so they made her get out of the wagon, and they shot her point blank in the head right in front of all the other children. Wow.
And they did kill several infants who were, in their mother's arms.
Yeah. I mean, just horrible. But I mean, you're basically done killing, and you're like, hey, little girl, how old are you? Oh, I'm 11. Okay, can you step out of the wagon, please? Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't tell people who these guys were, I mean, I guess I can't help you. I can't help you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so.
I mean, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, so they said that and do you know the date of Mountain Meadows?
Yeah, 1857, 9/11.
Yeah, September 11th.
Yep, the original 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, how weird is that?
Yeah, and it was the largest religiously motivated massacre on American soil until 2001.
Yeah, just terrible.
Now, in the history of the West, there were worse massacres. I mean,
Right.
let's not forget, we were brutal to the Indians.
Oh yeah, yes, we were. Shamefully.
Yeah. And of course, and the largest, the Bear River Massacre, happened in just Mormon country.
Right. Yep, it did. Yeah, so, I'm just saying, it should be pretty clear, like, what this church is, who the people are that are running it. A lot of them are descendants from the people that lived back then. Most of them are. They're connected one way or another. And you really think that the ones today are really good guys and the ones back then were garbage, but now they're like really good guys, right? I keep telling people that think they're wonderful, I keep telling them to give me examples. I'm begging them for examples. Give me examples of why they're wonderful, why they're lovely, why they have integrity, why they're, compassionate. Give me examples. I need to know what these and they don't have anything. They say nothing. They block me. They don't want to talk about it because there aren't any.
Howard's own granddaughter, when asked, what do you think the biggest problem with the 12 is? And her own grandfather, who she was loath to badmouth,
right,
said perfectly, what do you think his problem is? I said, he's a nice guy, but he seems to lack empathy.
Yeah. Completely, yeah. She was pretty clear on that too. She wasn't holding back. I mean, she was pretty clear.
She was very clear about that, and she said the whole 12 are nothing but businessmen. She didn't want to say anything too bad.
Right. She was trying to. She was parsing her words and being careful.
In other words, she's a heck of a lot more restrained and still partially believing, unlike us.
Yeah, we're pretty much straightforward. Yeah. I was telling you, I've never been one of those that's going to be like, well, let's try and be respectful and nice, and let's not hurt anyone's feelings, and let's not, no.
If I thought they were respectful of people's feelings, I'd be more respectful. But
yes, absolutely. No,
they're not.
No, they're not. They're not. So I mean, I don't respect people that don't respect me, and maybe I guess that's the opposite of what people say you should do. Like, if they attack you, then you love them even more. But sorry, that's just not going to happen in this situation. So
yeah, it's like it's like. This is it. People, you need to realize you can't let this church do whatever the. Can I swear?
Sure.
Okay. You can't let this church do whatever the fuck it wants.
No, you can't. You just can't. You can't.
Because
what it does is it enables them and it makes them feel justified. It strengthens them. I mean, whenever you let them just get away with everything, it makes them feel like, hey, I can do it again and again and again, and that's why.
It's right, and it's good, and it's like.
Yeah, that's why I've spent 10 years doing this. Podcasting with you and doing the live show. I mean, it's got to be exposed. Yeah. It has to be. They have to be held accountable for their words and their actions and their hate and their bigotry. Yeah. It's got to happen. They have to be held responsible. Someone has to do it, and they have to do it strongly, not weakly, strongly.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you remember when Christ was talking about the Pharisees?
Yeah.
And I love one quote. He says, those Pharisees, those damned hypocrites,
right,
are like beautiful sepulchres. For inside, they're beautiful and everything, but inside they are full of nothing but old men's bones.
Yeah.
And, one thing, if for those who are still believers, one thing that Christ hated, is hypocrisy.
Right.
And what's the height of hypocrisy? To have one of your creeds, supposedly, of your main beliefs, the second main thing that says, that your own doctrine says, that men are only responsible for their own actions.
Yeah, not Adam's or anyone else's.
You put out a policy that says we excommunicate you for your father's sins or your mother's sins.
Right.
That is just the epitome of hypocrisy.
It is. It's mind-blowing. It really is. I mean...
You claim to be apostles of Christ. Why don't you just read what he said about hypocrites? You fucking damned... I'm sorry. I can't even talk about this. It makes my blood boil.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I mean, I've been furious about it since... I mean, you were actually away. Oh. You didn't even know that all this had happened. You were actually out of the country for a while, and you came back in the country, and I'm going, hey, you wouldn't believe what happened in the last week. I mean... Yeah. I mean,
been back a week. Well, I've barely been back 1 week.
Right. Yep.
And I come back, and this is just like, holy hell! It's like, I wouldn't believe they could be that. I mean, I don't think much about the church, and even I would think that they would be this brutal in a public policy. Then when I found out, they did it secretly. Okay,
yeah,
they were conniving. They did secret combinations.
I think you were wondering when I first told you if I was relaying things correctly, if it was really, like, did that really happen? They really did that? I mean, they really said that?
Yeah, so I heard that it was leaked and that they didn't, put this out publicly.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that sounds like them. That's really sneaky and disgusting. That sounds just like they are hypocrites.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well.
They muck about in secret combinations, And it's like, I've been told to read the boring Book of Mormon so many damn times, how can people read that and their whole church doesn't practice it and not connect it?
Right. Well,
I mean, if you can't even keep to your own publicized scriptures and your own 13 articles of doctrine,
and stick by him.
And stick by him, when you outright lie about that, and you outright, I know at least 3 of the articles of faith that are complete and utter jokes.
Oh yeah, I wish George Carlin was still alive. We should have had him go through the articles of faith and trim it down. He could have done that for us. That would have been great. But
it's like they totally discredited with this policy. They just totally made light of at least 4 of them.
Well, yeah, the laws that we obey the laws of the land. We respect, kings and magistrates, but they don't.
And we respect anything that is virtuous, praiseworthy, or good report.
Yeah, that was even.
Never got that. That's complete.
That was even in their letter. That was like in their official letter, right near the top, where they said they actually used that statement from the Articles of Faith that they, love anything virtuous. And I couldn't believe the gall they had to put that in the letter, when they're condemning an entire group of people and their children, and yet they're using that to say that this is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and obeying laws of the land. These are legal gay marriages, and they're not respecting them at all. They're actually excommunicating them. They're calling them apostates, and they're saying that they're worse than, like I mentioned earlier, rapists, attempted murderers, wife abusers, sex abusers. They're like the lowest scum on the planet.
Yeah, and the fact that they are holding kids responsible for their parents' sins.
Yeah.
And the fact that they try to do this in secret.
Right.
Pretty much means they don't believe the Book of Mormon.
Yeah. Or the Articles of Faith, many of them. Like you said, at least 4 of them probably.
Yeah, so what can you even count on for Mormon doctrine? It's like the head of the church goes against what they say is the most correct book and their main book of Scripture. They go right against the Book of Mormon.
Well, and I brought this up earlier. I don't know if you heard me talking about it, but it's like this policy. Oh, it's a policy. It's not a doctrine. I'd love to talk about that for a minute, because to me, there's no difference. It's the same thing. The policies.
Well, it's a doctrine because all of the 12 signed off on it.
Right. Yeah, it's a doctrine. The policies enforce the doctrine. The doctrine creates the policy. It's the same thing. Call it whatever you want. It's doctrine. It is doctrine, 100%. These.
This isn't policy saying that saying that something is an excommunicatable offense. That's not policy. That is doctrine.
Yes. There's.
It's not. The church enacted a policy, but the policy declares doctrine. The fact that all 15 holy men signed off on it, and the fact that it says it basically states that this is an automatic excommunicatable offense,
right?
And this carries on to the kids. That's not a policy. That becomes doctrine.
Right. Right, and so if I hear one more person say, "Oh, well, doctrines never change, but policies do, and this is a policy," I'm going to scream, because basically they're taking the church's talking points and repeating them, because that's what the church wants you to say. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that this is a policy, and that there's hope that it could change. Well, how could it ever change? You and I talked about that earlier today. That it can't change, because it would unravel everything that they believe in. So this is not based on a policy. This is based on their doctrine to the core. This is core doctrine of the church. This is everything they've ever stood for, like as far as what they teach.
Yeah.
So
the problem is that their whole doctrine and their whole plan of salvation teaches that gender is an eternal concept.
Right. Exactly.
And one whole reason to where they're so damn scared is that they've defined. Part of the problem is they've defined morality as illegal marriage. It's only sex within a legal and lawful marriage.
Right.
And when gay marriage became legal, and they don't think outside of the country. They really don't.
No.
If you're a member and you're outside of the U.S., you know what the church thinks about you? Nothing.
They couldn't care less about you because you're actually pulling them down, because in most cases in the second and third world countries they're not making any money at all. I mean, they're losing money.
They're not making enough money to think about it, even though that the majority of the church is in Mexico, Latin, and South America and speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's a bad thing for them actually, because they're not making any money.
And how many Latino general authorities are there?
Very few. Apostles.
One.
Yeah, one.
One at the bottom of the 70.
Yeah, I mean, there's no apostles, obviously. Black, Hispanic, Asian.
No,
I mean,
there's not going to be a black apostle. There's not enough black Mormons for him to represent.
Well, there's only been two. Let's see. I used to know this like the back of my hand, but I think there's a new black 70 now. So I think there's been a total of 2, maybe 3, and it was about 20 years between the first and second one. So I mean, they can't even get into the 70s, let alone become an apostle. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, there's not that many black Mormons. Blacks don't want to join this racist cult.
You would think they would.
They're not that stupid.
Yeah, well, Darren Smith is still a member. He still believes it's true. I don't know how.
No, he doesn't.
Well, I think he does, actually. I don't. He got in a big debate with someone here a while back. Anyway, I'll have to verify that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's ever renounced his membership. He got fired from BYU.
No, I thought he was kicked out. I thought he was vexed.
Not that I'm aware of. No, I mean, he still loves.
No, he never renounced his membership, but I thought they kicked him out because he's an agitator.
He's an agitator, but I think that, I mean, they fired him from BYU, but I don't think they ever took any other disciplinary action against him, because in every interview...
he was vocal, and when you're vocal, I thought he got the axe. He's out.
I don't think so. I'll check on that.
I don't know for sure.
All I know is
he
still defends the church, and he still loves the church and talks about how much he loves the church, even though they're racist and they won't apologize, and they fired him from his job at BYU, so... as far as I know, they were probably too afraid to do anything against him because he is so vocal.
Yeah.
And he's pretty prominent too. I mean, he's well known, not just in Mormon circles, but he's well known nationally. And so I think that they were pretty scared to do too much to him other than fire him from his job. But yeah, but I mean, again, it just begs the question, you know, it's like, why would he or any black person want to be in this racist cult, you know, that basically hates so many different people that it's almost hard to keep track of sometimes.
Well, I know there's a lot of stories of a lot of people who get, you know, converted by the missionaries. They're black.
Right.
And they go to church, and, you know, they feel really good, except they feel like, man, am I the only, you know?
Yeah. Well,
am I the only American in this ward, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty, you know, odd. I mean, he mentioned that when he was taught by the missionaries that he never knew anything about, because he joined after 1978, and so they never told him, never taught him. He'd never heard anything about the black curse.
And a lot of them never find out, and when they do, they like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, why would they want to be in that, you know? I don't know.
I mean, even 50% of active black converts will leave when they find out the church's history, which makes perfect sense.
Well, let me say this. If you're black and you're in the church and you find out that it's all racist and everything, I mean, and then you want to stay and you believe it's true, there's some serious cognitive dissonance going on there. You need some help, because there might need to be an intervention so that you can understand what's happening here, because there's no reason why you should want to be a part of or support an organization, you know, that cursed your people for so long, you know, a race of people. I mean, gosh.
I fully agree, and that goes double or triple if you're gay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because, I mean,
if you're gay, and if this policy hasn't told you that you need to get the hell out and that they want you out, it's like...
What will it take? That's what I keep asking.
What will it take? Yeah.
I just don't... I don't know anymore.
Apparently Dan is hunting you? I don't know.
I don't know either. I wish I did. I don't
Yeah.
know anymore. I just can't
Oh,
figure it out.
And the policy, they had 2,000 that quit at a rally.
Yeah.
And so, do you know what the Deseret News and the Mormon Church was trying to say about all those people who quit?
What's that? Oh, that they were inactive.
Oh, that they were all just inactive anyway, or just
Right.
non-believers and everything. There were no active ones that quit, which is completely bogus.
Well, can I just mention something? And this probably won't be, liked very much, but for those that are organizing like the next mass resignation party, just do everyone a favor and don't put a poll on your page that asks how many people are still active in the church, because
Yeah.
they're actually the ones that gave them this information by having a stupid poll on their page asking, and it was like 5% said they still were active in the church, and so the media ran with it, the church ran with it, everyone's running with this number that 95% were inactive and 5% were active,
Yeah.
and so just don't
I think
give them
number,
that.
I think there were a lot more active Mormons, but you know what a lot of those were? A
What?
lot of them were actually active Mormons, but they were part of the, Mormons Building Bridges.
Yeah, there needs to be a new group called Mormons Blowing Up Bridges.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of these were Mormon activists who thought they could,
Right.
who were like, no, there were a lot of active Mormons in that. But
Surprise.
to be fair, they were the active Mormons were part of Mormons Building Bridges or Mama Dragons.
Yeah, surprise, the bridges you built just got blown up to pieces.
Yeah,
Surprise.
and they were so disgusted and they thought they were making progress on it. Like, okay,
Yeah, it's
so much
sad.
for changing the church, I'm out of here,
Right, and that's, and I'm glad that they finally realized that.
Yeah.
There's still some that haven't, and they're still
Yeah.
clinging to it. And
I don't know how many just active type-paying members just showed up at that. I think most of the active members were New Order Mormons or,
Yeah, but they were still, some of them might have still been paying tithing, going to their meetings.
there were probably a lot of tithe-paying members in that. So the fact is, even though it's not as great as I think it should be, that new policy should have caused,
Yeah.
should have caused a bunch of active Mormons to just go and drove, but
I hope it still continues.
that's not how cults work, and that's not how
Yeah,
cults of obedience
true.
work, unfortunately.
Well, this is a big one. I think they lost, some good people, some really good people that were diehards, and that poll doesn't mean jack. I mean, just because the people that did that poll said that, it doesn't mean that it wasn't 30% or 40%. I mean, we don't know, and so
We don't know, and I don't think that poll was totally accurate.
No,
And I'm sure I'm sure a good majority of them weren't active, but a lot of them were probably active tax-paying members who were actually part of the Mormons Building Bridges, and
right. Well, even
a lot of the active Mormons. a lot of them were people who were willing to stand up and were advocating for better, for the church, for better treatment for gays, because a lot of them have gay kids, gay brothers, gay sisters.
Yeah, and well, the one is, you said Mom and Dragons, right? I had not heard of them before all this happened. I wasn't even aware of that group, but
the
yeah.
Mama Dragons, it was just an organization of Mormon mothers of gay children.
Right, and they're pretty pissed. I mean, they're really upset too.
Oh, and don't think that a lot of those who were active in that were part of that 2000.
Right. Yeah.
No, those were the active Mormons who were part of that 2000, and a whole bunch of New Order Mormons.
Right.
I mean, some people who thought they could reform the church from within with this policy finally realized that was a real kick in the face. Oh, I've been wasting my time.
Right. Yeah. And well, I mean, yeah. I've been trying to tell them for years that you're wasting your time, guys. They're gonna kick you in the teeth the first chance they get.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's sad. I mean, I'm not reveling in that, or I don't enjoy the fact that I was right. I wish I was wrong. I mean, it's because it's so damaging to so many people, and it's caused depression and suicide. It's horrific, and so it's like I was trying to help them understand that they were going down a road that was going to end badly for them,
Yeah.
And I think that they're too emotionally
And unfortunately, I don't
involved.
think this is the end of that road.
I know for a lot of them, they're still on the road, and it's they're too emotionally
and if they stay on
involved.
it, it's just the next blow will be worse.
It will, because now they've done this, and now they're going to do something else, and so it's they just don't care who they leave in their wake. They just don't care. I mean, whatever happens, happens. And like we were talking earlier in the show with Dr. Shays, like they're basically getting rid of the troublemakers and the problems, and I mean they got rid of Kate Kelly.
What you don't realize is this is going to hit their missionary program hard.
It is, yeah. I mean they've set the missionaries up for a complete disaster around the world.
Yeah, I mean, that I've already heard that unfortunately, I'd like to say that this is just trying members to resign in droves and droves and droves, but that's not going to happen.
Right.
But I mean, there's still a lot of good quality people that are, people with real hearts.
Yeah.
Real charity. It's like they're not going to lose a lot of members, but what they're going to find is the church is going to lose that which made them good.
Yeah, well, that's true. The good ones.
People they leave will be the cream of the crops. The devout who are actually good, who made Mormon Ward a place that was good. Yeah. And they help people, and over the years, this is really going to hurt them because you will lose people, and it may not be just droves and droves that I wish would quit, but those who do quit will be people of principle, people of quality.
Yes.
It's that one person who is going to leave a ward empty in their absence.
Right. I mean, who are they left with?
Those people whose absence will be so dearly felt.
Right.
And the church is, by driving out those people, the church is going to be so damn hollow.
The dedicated, yeah, that's a great point. The dedicated people that they're there every week and they teach their class.
With sincere heart that make you look good.
I mean,
that make you attracted to converts.
Who's going to be left? The Jeff Lindsays and Daniel C. Peterson, the Mormon apologists.
Yeah, the people who are left are going to be the assholes like the leaders.
Right.
You're losing your heart, and when you lose your heart, this policy makes you look really bad. And the fact is, you're losing the people who ever made you look good.
Yep, and
so your reputation just took such a hit that you will never recover, and you're starting yourself on a slide.
Yeah.
Where your reputation is going to go back to what it was at the turn of the century.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're really going backwards dramatically and quickly.
Yeah, it's like just when you thought that you were almost starting, finally getting people to, and all your effort at PR and all your commercials and all your everything, it's all undone.
Yeah, millions of dollars on ad campaigns and websites, and everything is undone.
All the money you spent advertising it, playbills and the Book of Mormon musical.
Right.
Since theater people are all fabulous, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to bet that they get a revision in the Book of Mormon musical that's touring across the country?
Right, and I'll go back to the Peter Danzig interview he did with John DeLynn and with his wife, and what's his wife? Mary, right? Mary Danzig.
Mary.
And in the interview that they did, I mean, they talked about how when Monson became the prophet, he basically went on a gay witch hunt to get everyone and everyone that was gay out of the choir, out of the orchestra. He wanted them gone. I mean, he was going after good people that had never done anything to anyone. They loved what they did, and he went and wanted that place eradicated of anybody gay. And this should come as no surprise. And he's the one who drove Prop 8. Yep, he did.
Big drive against Prop 8.
And I just want to mention that he was the one involved with Oaks back in the 70s at BYU with the the gay.
The electroshock.
Yeah, the electroshock on gay people on BYU campus. He was right in the middle of that. So Monson has had an intense hatred for gays since forever, and so has Oaks. And so none of this should really come as too much of a surprise. That's kind of what Dr. Shades was saying. Like, the only thing that he's surprised about is that everyone's surprised. So I think that's a good way to, sum it up, I mean, it really, if you know anything about the history of the church, or you know how much they've hated different groups of people, and especially gays, Prop 8, and I mean, it should come as no surprise.
This. Were you taught that homosexual? I mean, I remember being taught this in seminary.
Yeah.
That homosexuality was one of the greatest crimes.
Yeah, well, it's what it says in Miracle Forgiveness. It's second next to murder.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was told that the only two sins worse than homosexuality were murder and
masturbation.
What?
Masturbation?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we're murder, bestiality, and denying the Holy Ghost.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice.
A.k.a. becoming an apostate.
Right. Well, and now they're worse than attempted murderers, sexual abusers, rapists.
Well, yeah.
So.
I mean, this was back when I was growing up. This was back in I'm going through seminary. This is back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
And this is what I was taught. So that they're worse and that they're bad and that they're horrible. This is not anything new.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I was taught this, and this was all coming because Kimball was the prophet, and it was all coming from his book,
Yeah, the book which they then claim is not official, it's, that's not official. It's, but it is official, and the bishops still hand it out to people. And I knew a girl at BYU who went on a vacation and had sex with a man, and she came back, and what did the bishop give her? Miracle of Forgiveness. And
they still pass out. They still have Packer's little factory talk pamphlet is still handed out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they still have his, it's okay to beat up your gay companion to the one, they call it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Talk is still sometimes distributed. So
yeah, it's So I'll repeat what Dr. Shade said. The only surprise that he had is that everyone's surprised.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah.
That's the only surprise.
We should be surprised, and I'm sure more is coming.
They've
already doubled down on their policy. We hate gays. We want them out.
Right.
I'm sure more is coming.
Oh yeah, prepare yourself. I mean, it's going to happen, and I think they're going to see how far they can go. I'm not quite sure where it ends. I was listening to a podcast that you did with I forget his name, but you guys did a podcast together, and he, you guys were talking about that and saying, they hated blacks, now they hate gays. Like, who's next? And it's like, they're running out of. I mean, the comment was they're running out of groups to hate. Like, who can they hate next? It's like, I think they've pretty much run through all the hatred.
They're out of them, and so they're going to double down on their hatred of gays.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, they can't curse blacks, so gotta get the women and gays. That's where their focus will be.
And the ironic thing is, right after this policy is announced, Salt Lake City elected an openly gay mayor.
Yes. I think wasn't she elected before this right before this policy came out? It almost seemed like it was like their retaliation or something. I don't know. It's the timing was amazing. I think they anticipated it was going to happen, and I swear that this announcement and what they did had something to do with that, because I mean, it would surprise me if it didn't.
Yeah, the policy came out, and the church actually got the local papers to delay the announcement.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was against what was her name?
The newspaper,
no, the election was so close that they had to do recount.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because Becker was a 3-term mayor, so it was against. So they elected an openly gay,
which is great,
lesbian governor against major incumbent.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, and that made
great.
that made
like,
headlines around the world too. By the way, that was a big news story.
Yeah. So if you see a giant white penis flying through the sky sometime in the future,
yeah,
that's just a church office building. That's just them moving it to Provo because Salt Lake's gone too evil.
right in the Vatican of Mormonism. A gay mayor.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Great.
If I refer to the giant white penis downtown Salt Lake, does anybody not know what I mean? I mean, when you take a building that, is peaked into almost an oval on top,
right,
and is white and has two big, huge ovals on either side.
Yeah.
I mean, for such an anti-gay, paranoid, homophobic church,
right,
their office headquarters is a giant penis. They have an awful lot of phallic symbolism.
Yes, they do.
For such a homophobic church.
Well, and they always talk about erecting things. Everything's always talked about as erections. They erected the church.
We're going to erect. It's not build a new temple. It's erect a new temple.
Right. Yeah.
Erect a new state center. Erect.
Exactly. They're always erecting things. It's they're not building.
Yeah.
They're erecting. It's like, why do you have to constantly use the term erection? It's amazing. I mean,
I don't know. Has anybody looked at those Book of Mormon photos that they used to have? And
right. Of Nephi and Mormon and Moroni.
Strong, strapping, bold men without shirts very often.
Oh yes. Very amazing.
Big bold men with muscles.
Well, hey, I just want to say one more time, there's a bunch of you out there listening. If anybody else wants to call in, I'm going to be wrapping it up here in a few minutes. So if you still want to call in, you're welcome to join us. We're just we haven't done a podcast for a while, so this is good. We're able to do it live. So.
Yeah, I just had to talk about this policy. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, what's the word that people like to use? Breathtaking. It's so. I mean, they use that in the PBS documentary that, some of these things are just, I mean, they're so bad, it's literally breathtaking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just shocking, but it's not. Yeah. It shouldn't be, though, if you really understand. Yeah, I think it still caught people off guard, though, because they went so far, I mean, they just went so far. I mean, going after the children. I mean, not even, like, just so everybody knows, like, babies can't even be blessed. Oh, and I want to point out something else real quick. This was really awesome. When Christofferson did that interview with, what's his name, Otterson, I think, the spokesperson guy, he mentioned that when a kid receives a name and a blessing, that they create a church membership record for them. And I mean, we've all known that.
That's why they call kids that are under the age of 8.
Yeah.
Child of record.
Right. And it was. Oh
no, they are a member of the church.
That's right. And so that's why they're banning.
A baby blessing makes you a member. It just makes you an unbaptized member.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting? Because I was always under the impression that to be a member you had to be baptized. But you don't. When you're blessed, you are a member of the church. So it's
you're a member. Yeah, in fact, they call it member of record.
That's right.
Which is their name for an unbaptized member.
Yeah, and I don't think many people think much about that, But
no.
So for all the ex-Mormons out there who might have blessed their children before you left the church, when you resign, you need to make sure you include the names of your children. Even your babies, because they have a membership record as well, and so you need to resign everyone, not just yourselves.
Yeah. I just want to say something, and this is actually a message to the church leadership.
Okay. I'm sure they're listening tonight. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody from the Strengthening the Members Committee has to be listening to this to check out this whole new thing, since this is a first.
Right. Yeah, they'll be tuning in quite often.
On a live call and showing that. So here's an actual statement you can pass on to your uppers, and here's a comment.
All right.
Your hatred of gays in this policy may not have caused a whole ton of members to leave right away, but
Right.
it's going to cause you to shrink to nothing in the end, because the youth of this country and even the youth of the city and the state actually support gay rights and gay marriage.
Yeah, and it's becoming more and more so. I mean, every day.
The youth and the kids support this.
And it's not just
So
here,
as
it's all
your
around the
support
world.
will die off. Your
Right.
members who support you and go with you will die off. And you just created a move, and what you just did a couple weeks ago ensured that most of the youth, and that's where you get most of your new members, are the kids of your members, your missionary programs. You just gutted it too. So,
Yeah.
eventually your support and your taxpayers are going to die off, and you just gutted the resupply. So,
Well,
enjoy your power and your members while you have them before they die, because you just ensured that your new supply is cut in half or probably worse.
Yep, it's gonna. Yeah,
So
it will have a
be prepared
long-lasting
to,
effect.
Be prepared to be reduced down. What's all your older members croak
Right.
to just a tenth of what you are now.
Yeah.
You're
Well.
going to be reduced to just a small regional church who's only a fraction of the population of the Intermountain West.
Yep. Well, yeah, maybe Utah, yeah, Idaho, maybe Arizona, possibly part of it.
And maybe a little bit of Arizona. That's about it.
Yeah.
And it'll mostly be the older people who'll just keep dying off. And I'll bet you that 50% of the youth of the church will not continue and will not be active taxpayers. And I'll bet you as time goes on, that becomes more and more until it gets to only 20%
Yeah.
of the youth will continue in the church.
It's gonna be a very low number.
So-
I believe that.
So go ahead and steer it. You know what? I should tell you this because it tells you where your danger zone is. But you know what? You're arrogant and you're out of touch. You're not going to listen. So
Yeah. No, they're not.
So your days are numbered. You just ensured it'll take a while for your demise and your effects. This will take a while before you feel it, and of course the current leadership will long be gone. But you
Right.
just set the church to start crumbling. The church was already shrinking very slowly, but you just expedited it downhill.
Well, I thanked him on Twitter. I mean, I publicly thanked him like the day after they made this announcement. I said, "Thank you so much
and
for
thanks
doing my
thanks
job."
for announcing that you don't believe in that you actually do hold people responsible for their parents' things. I mean, like we know that from stuff like the interview with the dad things.
Yeah, and blacks and the priesthood, they did the same thing. And
The
the
blacks and the priesthoods, they were held responsible for their parents' sins. And Peter Daszak couldn't become a seminary teacher because of the
That's right.
wrongful accusations against his fathers and that marks. So if your parents were marked out from the church, you can't work for the church. So
Oh, and by the way, his dad was innocent. He was falsely accused, and they actually bugged their phone lines at home as well. I mean, this was like back in the
whole
50s,
point
60s.
The whole point is that this policy is not a new doctrine, but it was a secret doctrine.
Right.
And now it's out that you actually do believe that you are responsible for your parents' sins. You just announced it to the world. So have fun with the repercussions of that. And thanks for finally doing something that announced that to the world.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for doing our job, for making our lives a lot easier, for exposing yourselves better than we could ever do it. I mean, I do.
Well, like I say, I wish we could destroy the Mormon Church, but we can't. We just have to wait for those old, out-of-touch, motherfucking hypocrites to do it themselves. So keep up the good work.
Yes, keep up the good work, because you're doing a fine job. But the sad part is, in the middle of all this, is that they're
please do something to make your demise go faster, please.
Right. Yes. And that's where, we come in and other ex-Mormons come in. We have to be there as a support group for those whose lives are being gutted and destroyed, so we can help them so that they don't feel as if they have nothing to live for because they lost the thing that meant the most to them, And that's,
and if anybody who's gay is listening to this and is thinking, and is listening to the stupid cult and now thinks horribly sinful. I've committed the worst sin ever. You didn't commit any sin. You were born that way. Science has proved that now.
And they admit that as well. By the way, on MormonsandGays.com, they admit that.
Yeah. Even the church admits it. So it's true. You were born that way. So do you think a black should kill themselves because they were born sinful?
Right.
No, it's BS. And the whole idea that you're responsible and for your parents' sin is bogus. Don't buy that. If you're the child of a gay, if you're a gay, do not even give this cult.
They don't deserve you.
They don't deserve you. Get out. It's good. They're horrible. And they're losing. All the good people who made it worthwhile are going to go.
Right. Straight.
So just go with them.
And
find
gay.
something else that works for you. There's tons of other churches out there. There's a million other ones. There's thousands and thousands of Christian churches and every other major denomination and everything else you can think of. There's a whole ton of atheist organizations out there now.
Right. And if you need
anything else,
and
find something that suits you.
Well, and if you need to talk, call us. Call the show. Call us. Email us. If you need help, let us know.
Do not harm yourself.
Right.
Do not, please.
Over this cult,
please.
This so-called church.
Do not let this cult do any more damage and hurt any more people.
Right.
And the thousands and thousands it already has. And
if you think they're going to care, they won't.
Too large of an increase in suicides.
Yeah, it's just, Again,
Mormons already since this came out. So,
well,
no more. No more, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Just reach out to somebody, whether it's us or somebody else. Reach out for help.
Reach out to anybody.
And we want to help, any way we can.
Call a suicide hotline. Call a friend. Call anybody. Just not somebody who's too... And if it's maybe not somebody who's in the church, though. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool church believer.
Yeah,
somebody else.
Try to find somebody that's at least on the fence. That can actually, have an opinion that's not based on what the church says. Just real quick, at that resignation meeting, one of the speakers that was supposed to be there couldn't be there because one of their friends tried to kill himself, and so he was at the hospital with his friend. And so, it is happening, and this announcement is
happening
triggering
far too much, and
it's just so tragic.
Yeah, and this last month is going to go down in the record books for highest suicides per capita in United States history in a single state.
Oh, I hope not. Have you actually heard that?
It's prediction. I've actually heard rumors. I've heard that the suicide rate was like 6 times normal.
Oh, boy.
The day after the policy and was getting worse.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm wrong, but I'm probably not. And I hate to be right about this kind of thing. And it's like enough's enough.
And for those that think that
lying,
they care,
hypocritical, stupid church is not worth your sorrow.
No, it's not.
It's definitely not worth your life.
It's not.
Do not let what a stupid... listen to us. This cult is just dumb. It's founded on lies. It's always been about lies. It's always been completely hypocritical. It's never what they say. The Articles of Faith have always been a big fucking lie.
Right.
The Book of Mormon, they don't even believe. So...
Well, yeah,
the quote of Disney's song, just let it go. Just let the church go. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth your time, your energy, your thoughts. The only reason we're doing it is...
Don't let it make you miserable anymore. Get whatever help you need to help get away from it, and you probably do need help to get away from it because it messes up your thinking. It really does.
It does. I left a comment today. I was actually kind of bummed out and a little concerned. I said, it makes me wonder if the church is causing so much, mental, literally causing mental illness, the brainwashing, the indoctrination that, you hope that there's help or that these people will reach out for help, for what they're experiencing, because the church becomes your identity. It's who, I mean, what were we taught growing up? It's not a church, it's who you are. It's who you are as a person. And so people take that very seriously.
It was for me.
Yeah, me too. It was everything. It was.
But there's so many other cool identities you could find. There's just there's a ton of them.
Yeah, definitely.
That are way more better. I mean, you can be a geek. You can be Be your own man. Do not be somebody who follows the whims of 15 out of touch, senile, evil old guys.
Bigoted old guys. Yeah.
And I guess we gotta wrap this up, or I gotta get to bed.
Yeah, I was gonna do that anyway. So, but I just wanted to thank everyone that listened in tonight. I really appreciate it. It's the premiere show, so it's kind of exciting. It's fun. As far as I know, as I've said, no one's done this before. So, especially on a weekly basis, or daily basis. And so it's exciting. I mean, I want to thank Dr. Shades for coming on, and thank you for coming on, and for those that weren't able to get through tonight that called in, I know there were a bunch of you calling in. Just call back tomorrow. I'll be on again at 11, so just call back tomorrow, and we'll take your call in. I apologize. So, but basically, I think this is going to be good. And I mean, my main goal in doing this is that I want to help as many people as we can. I give them an outlet. Not only to listen, but if they want to call in and share their thoughts or feelings and experiences, that they can. And it'll be here every night. So, hopefully it'll help some people that need the help. So, but
there's probably a lot of them right now.
Yeah, there are probably more than ever right now, and so that's what we'll try and do. So, all right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I know you're going to join me when you can, and you're welcome to call in anytime. And I can bring you in, and we can talk to other people, and have a
next time I call in, I'll be quicker so you can get some more people.
Okay. Hey, that's fine. It was great talking to you again. So, but thanks everybody for tuning in, and if you have any questions, again, my email is exmormonlive@gmail.com. And you can leave comments there, or you can find me over at Twitter or on Facebook at the EX-MO Live group that I started. And so I'll be easy to find. And then you have our number to call if you want to call in too. So.
Or demonofcolab@gmail.com.
Yeah, demonofcolab@gmail.com. Yep, feel free to email us if you need help or you want to talk, and we'll do all we can to help you. So that's a good note to leave it on, because I think a lot of people are out there right now hurting. So. But and one thing I was going to mention too, real quick, at the beginning of the show, I have the intro, and I don't know if you heard it, Demon, but it was Oaks talking about you can't criticize leaders of the church even if it's true, and then he talks about Mountain Meadows and says that by the way, our leaders were the ones that committed the massacre. And anyway, I have a little intro, but then I play a little music after the main intro. And so I'll be changing that song regularly, and then at the end of the podcast, I'll play the song in its entirety. So that's how I'll end the shows, just so everybody knows. So anyway, I guess that's it. So hey, I appreciate you calling in, and we will see you guys all tomorrow night. So thank you, and I appreciate everyone that took part in the premiere episode of EX-MORMON Live. It was an honor to be here for you guys. So thanks. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, original root boy, DJ Shaky, well done, John Black. Hey man, esa que quiero conocerla, para que toda la noche ella conmigo pueda estar. Y tú, en busca de otra para ti, para que te diviertas y podamos compartir. Ellos danzan, danzan, guayo, guayo. Ellos danzan, danzan, guayo, guayo. Ellos danzan. Guayo, 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 guayo.
Me acerco a tu cuerpo, nena, y te presto mi atención. Cómo mueves tus caderas, me pones en tensión. Me acerco a tu cuerpo, nena, y te presto mi atención. Cómo mueves tus caderas, me pones en tensión.
Invita al combo de tus amigas. La party sorprendió que vas al otro día.
Que no tenga compromisos que cumplir.
guayo. Guayo, 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 guayo. Guayo, 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 guayo. Guayo, 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 guayo.
Me acerco a tu cuerpo, nena, y te presto mi atención. Cómo mueves tus caderas, me pones en tensión. Me acerco a tu cuerpo, nena, y te presto mi atención. Cómo mueves tus caderas, me pones en tensión.
En slow motion veo tu rostro, tarareas tus palabras. Entiendo poco, no sé de qué me hablas, pero me entono al compás de tus palabras que dicen todo. Oye, hoy brindaré por ti, por mí, que suenen todas las copas, guayando así. Eso que dice danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Danzal, danzal, prendido estoy de tu punani. Lo que más me atrae de tu body, con ese movimiento crecería Mr. Daddy. Síguelo así, moviendo así, lo que tú estás buscando casi lo conseguí.
No sé qué quieres tú de mí, bailemos, hagámoslo aquí. Lo que quería ya lo conseguí, tener tu cuerpo bailándome así.
Río danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Río danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Río danzal, danzal, guayo, 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 guayo. Río danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Río danzal, danzal, guayo, guayo. Río danzal, danzal, guayo, 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 guayo.
Me acerco a tu